So for this video, I'm going to be going over this thing known as the turret, a very pivotal part of this game since it's one of the most important things. This is what the turret looks like in its default state. This is the base form that gets prefabbed into this bad boy right here. So a prefab, I didn't go over in my last video, is a thing you make right here in the scene, and when you drag it into here, it becomes a perfect copy that you can call with code. So you don't have to create a billion up here and just place them everywhere. You can have the code spawn them in as a copy, and it will save you a ton of memory because it's only creating the one. It's only uploading the one and then mimicking it instead of creating multiple. So if it costs like, I don't know, 1 kilobyte, it would, instead of having 100 turrets being 100 kilobytes, it's just 1 kilobyte and then it just gets phantomed across the game, essentially. But anyway, so the turret is actually quite a complex piece of machinery. It looks really simple when looking at it right here, or maybe it doesn't, I'm not sure. But, so we have the turret right here. And the first thing that I have to know is the rotation piece. Now, this is a very important thing because the rotation piece is what lets the turret move around. So it lets the turret aim and lets it rotate and all that good stuff. The fire point, which is right here at the tip, is where the bullets spawn, so it's where it shoots. The body is just for aesthetics. It's adding the body, just like the barrel. So those are both just aesthetics. The most important things are the rotating piece and the fire piece. Because if I was trying to rotate, say, the body or the barrel, then the turret would rotate oddly. And if I tried to rotate the whole turret, I'd get a whole bunch of weird bazamalam stuff happening. So instead, I created a game object that doesn't hold anything. So there's literally nothing in here, just for the sake of being able to rotate. So if I switch on my little controls right here, if I rotate it, the rotation piece controls just the rotation. Boop, 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 of the turret. So that's the first area right here. And that will go into the turret script. So let's see. Got the turret right here. So I have put some headers in here for the sake of, organization. So this little code just lets it show a header when I look at it inside the engine. So in here, if I click on the turret, I have a little header that says attributes and then range, unity fields, and all that good stuff. It's organization, and it looks good. So I have a range, a fire rate, and a countdown. That's not really important right now because that's all like mathematical balancing stuff. I have a tag. So a tag is literally like a name tag you put onto your objects. And I'm looking for this specific tag for the turret because that's what it's going to be shooting at. So it's important to make sure that this verbatim is the same as the tag that you have in here, here. Now, the transform part to rotate is the rotation thing I was talking about earlier. That way the code knows that's only supposed to rotate that one thing, but I'll get into that as well. Turn speed is how fast it turns, obviously. The bullet prefab is the bullet, and that's where the thing is going to find. So this is going to be invoking repeating at the start, so it's going to be doing this update target, all this good stuff right here. But in the update target, we have a game object enemies, which is actually an array. So by putting those two squares here, you create an array, which is like a container for anything that meets these conditions. So if it meets the condition of being an object with enemy tag, which we declared up here to be enemies, or enemy, then it goes inside this container. This is important because it saves a lot of processing power in code just to put everything in as it spawns because there's no really a better way to do it. And then shortest instance is math.infinity because we want to be able to make sure the computer knows what its upper and middle limits are, because if you leave it at null, you get some wonky stuff happening. And then nearest enemy is a game object, and it's going to equal to null because there's no nearest enemy when the game starts, because there are no enemies when the game starts. And you want to make sure that the game knows that. So for each game object, enemy, and enemies, what this does is that it goes through this set of conditions for everything inside the container we created just a second ago, right here. So for each game object enemy in enemies, we're going to be grabbing some important information, so distances to enemy. So it's going to be grabbing how far the turret is from the enemy. And then it's going to be checking to see if the distance to the enemy is less than shortest distance. And if it is, or... yeah, so if that is true, the shortest distance is equal to distance to enemy, and the nearest enemy becomes whatever enemy this was going through. And this keeps going through and through and through continuously throughout the time the whole game is running. And if nearest enemy is not equal to null, and the shortest distance is less than or equal to range, which is just number stuff, the target becomes the nearest enemy dot transform. The transform is essentially where the object is in space. But if it's not, the target becomes null. So the way this is written is it allows the target to be... that pretty much allows there to be no target. That way the turret doesn't error out on itself trying to find something that doesn't exist. So it's very important to make sure it goes back to null, or else it's going to keep shooting at whatever target is, even though it doesn't meet these conditions. And if target equals null, it returns. So it doesn't do anything if there's no target. It doesn't move. Nada. Then we go into these areas right here. There's like a bunch of math to grab a lot of rotation. So quaternion, look rotation. Quaternions is how the game engine kind of reads rotations in its own space. So it's very important to use this and not just rotation equals this or anything like that. And then if we go over here to the side, we're using Euler angles too, which is its own complicated animal from quaternions. And then we can do quaternion into a Euler to get all this good stuff. But I'm not going to go into the deep details of that. So then we have the fire countdown. So it will shoot once this equals 0 and do all this stuff. When it shoots, it creates a bullet. If the bullet isn't null, the bullet will seek the target. And then this is just so I can see the little range thing. So this little red circle that you see when I click on the turret, it's actually the range of the turret. And I just did that for the sake of me. You can't see it in game. It's just so I can see how far the thing can shoot. And that's the turret right there. All the complex good stuff of the turret. The turret base too. Yeah, so I kind of, I went a little fancy. I created a base, a neck, and, barrels, all that good stuff. And now here's the important part. Well, actually, let's show the turret in action. So if I'm going to create a bunch of turrets because I have it coded to only start when I do certain things. Boop, 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 boop. And there's the first guy. I'm going to turn this to a turret real fast. So if you can see that, the turret will lock on and shoot. Right now I just have it so it insta-kills, just for the sake of making sure everything works. I'll add damage and HP in a second. So if you notice, it'll actually rotate. It won't freak out or anything, and it shoots at a steady pace. And if these guys can actually make it far enough, you'll see that he only shoots the closest one. So he won't shoot the one that's back here or the one that's back here. He'll only shoot the one that's very close to him. So if they start passing by this way, it'll shoot the one right here and not over here. So it doesn't target lock until it's out of range. It target locks to the nearest enemy. Boop. And then I think that's where I'm going to call that one for here before I start going into the UI because this one's running long.